Welcome to the Next Level Sound podcast series, exploring the techniques, technology, and people who are creating a buzz in the world of music production. Next Level Sound is home to the modern music producer. To learn more about Next Level Sound's online music production courses, please visit nextlevelsound.com. Enjoy.
Hello, everyone. This is Daniel Wyatt, and I'm here with Next Level Sound. And today on our podcast, we have Nir Averbuch, who is the CEO and co-founder of Sound Radix. And Nir and I met last year. Our school is a boutique music production school, and we're always looking for incredible tools for our students and for our music production education. And we had issues around fixing phase. So we went searching the World Wide Web and the world at large for tools that could actually remedy phase problems. And when we found Auto-Align and Pi, we started to dig in. And as we started to dig in, we had questions. And then with our questions, we emailed Nir at the company, and he emailed us back. And not only did he explain a lot of the questions that we had, but he gave a private lecture to the school where he showed all about Pi. And after that, it's a happy story. Our phase issues were resolved, and we have good phase, and we all live happily ever after. And the sound of all the projects, of all the producers in the school has greatly improved with these incredibly innovative and unique tools from Sound Radix. So with that introduction, welcome, Nir. How are you?
Great. Thank you for the great intro. Great to be here. Always.
Great to see you again. So I think one of the concepts with the podcast is to, all of us producers all over the world, we spend, literally thousands of hours with these tools that you create. And sometimes there's a little bit of a missing link or a disconnect on a human level. We don't know the people who are creating these tools that we spend these thousands of hours with and that we couldn't live without. So we kind of thought it would be cool, and people from the school who, loved meeting you before when you came to lecture, just to shed a little light on just some of the personal workings behind the scenes at these, at Sound Radix and these companies that we, again, spend so much time using but don't always know the people. So, and just a unique opportunity for us to ask you some questions, and that, is difficult to do sometimes. So, if you could, you are CEO and co-founder, if you could just walk us through a little bit of the development of Sound Radix, from an idea written on a napkin at a diner to this flourishing, award-winning boutique company that you steer. Could you give us a little sense of the development of the company?
Sure. So it started very naively. I'm engineer, music producer, and with time, I love technology. I love getting into new tools and technology, and been always interested in what's happening in that area. And for a while, I've been enjoying everything that was happening in the field, but was getting a little bit frustrated with kind of the situation of where it seemed like most developers were busy developing emulations of analog gear. And I thought that there's much that could be done with the current technology, with computers, that cannot be done with analog. A lot of analog, basically, and I have a lot of analog gear. You can see back in my rack.
Yes.
But I thought there's something that we can do differently, other things that analog can do. And for a while, I've been collecting these ideas about stuff that I would want to have. and I really didn't know like how even to go about it, where to start. And a friend just said, "Hey, you must go out of your studio. Get out of of your lair to the to the outside world." I'm sure you all relate to that, being stuck in the studio, and just meet people, and who knows what will happen. And he was absolutely right, because through a friend I met Yair, who just came back from New York after he spent several years working in a big technology startup. And
What year was
said,
this? Around what year was this, Nir?
it was about 2010, beginning
Yeah.
of 2010, maybe at the end of 2009.
Yep.
And I kind of, we just met at the studio once, and said, well, this is the state of the industry. I'm kind of frustrated that there's so many things we can do that analog can do, and here's an idea of a compressor that works like a speaker that I have, or a bunch of other ideas. What do you think? Maybe we can do something together, and I don't know, just meet maybe once a week and play around with code and sound. And you totally went with it, to my surprise. And we just started to meet like once a week on Fridays, just hanging out. Had some ideas, running some, fooling around with stuff, and just having a good time. And we basically jammed with coding. I would say, well, here's something, let's try to do something. And the very first thing we started working on was what's today's Powair.
Yeah.
Really wanted to have a compressor that really behaves naturally, that you get that sense of power, but without the artifacts that you usually get with analog compressors. Something that would behave more naturally, more transparently, but give you that sense of power and energy at the same time. So we started playing around with it, and Yair will write something. I'll test it right there in my studio on real material, and say, well, doesn't work quite well, has some artifacts, and you'll take the material and go back. And while he would cut, I'll continue mixing the stuff that I was working on. And in all of these back and forth, he saw me measuring samples by hand, counting samples and lining the tracks by hand. And he asked me what I'm doing, and said, well, I'm aligning my tracks. It's a nightmare. Every song, it takes me 3 hours just to align the mics of the drums, the guitars. And I wish there was something that do that for me automatically. I didn't have to spend all this time. It's just brain numbing. Not creative at all.
No.
And he was really surprised. It's like, there's nothing like that does that already. I said, well, no. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's the problem. There's all these things that I wish that computers would do for me, that would speed up my workflow and get me faster to the creative part of mixing. So I said, you know what? Let's do it. Like, can we do it? Said, yeah, let's do it. So we'll put power aside, and that's how Autoline came to be.
And so that was how many from the beginning where you guys began to collaborate? How many, what was it, a year? Was it a couple years before Autoline started to, how long, what was the timeline?
So the first version of Autoline was relatively quick, less than a year. I think it was 5 months, 5 or 6 months. The first version was audio unit only.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, you couldn't just develop plugins for Pro Tools. You had to get approved, and it was like a whole process. And it was actually quite a bit trying to get a hold of someone, and tried through friends, tried to get to the people in Avid to approve us, and which we finally did. And it was kind of just it was the very first thing we did. You know, and I'm a Logic user, so audio unit made sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty quick, and then it took us another 6 months to, I guess, I don't recall exactly, to get all the other formats.
So it was power to auto align, and then what was the next tool that kind of came about? Or did you start to develop multiple at the same time, or was it more of a linear march?
Yeah, no, we were. It was basically just me and Yair, and after Auto Align, Dan joined us as well.
Okay.
And then we started working on Surfer Q.
Yeah.
Which was our second plugin, which is another thing that was frustrating to me, is why Qs can be musical, why they can't follow my vocal, because the melody is moving all the time, the bass, and you either automate it or you just
live with it and suffer.
Or
Yeah,
right. They have to do something like too broad,
Yeah, static.
Yeah. So So Surfer Q was the second plugin we developed.
After Surfer Q, do you remember what was the next one?
I think after Surfer we made Pi.
Yeah.
Which was your brain's child. He said, well, we have Auto Align, it's fantastic, but what if we could do something that just put it on your mix, on the tracks, and it just rotates the phase and makes everything sounds great.
And that's what it does. I mean, I love them all, but that one to me is just sheer, complete magic. And, when you hear the before and after, it's a where have you been all my life kind of feeling of all of us that have suffered under weird phase issues that we just thought we had to accept, I think. And so, yeah, I mean, that one is just a mind-blowing, space to play in. And, so anyway, okay. So Pi came next. Yeah. I love him.
And Pi is actually quite crazy because we really had to jump through hula hoops to make it happen, because the plugin format does not allow for plugins to talk to each other. And Pi was the first plugin ever in the world, maybe still is, that does its processing based on inputs from multiple channels.
Yeah,
and it doesn't just process each channel by its own. So we actually have in the background a mixer, a phase mixer that's running in the background that you don't see.
Yeah.
And Pi, the Pi plugin is basically a routing plugin and a executable plugin, but the actual engine sits in the background that you don't see. So it streams the tracks to the mixing engine. The mixing engine calculates the optimal phase for all the tracks, then it shoots the command to the plugin, which rotates the phase, and that's how it works.
It's completely crazy, and it was one of the first times ever that I was able to use a post fader insert. I always what would you use a post fader insert for? But that is the perfect use of it, and I mean, it's just it makes the grooves solid, and forward. In a way, the low end, power and groove, forward and musical. And like you said in one of the times when you explained it to me, it also has a little bit of a transformer softening of the transients as well in a rounding kind of way. So it's a little textural too, in addition to lining up your power for the low end. And it's musical. It's highly technical, but at the end of the day, it's highly musical. So after Pi?
After Pi came Drum Leveler, I think.
Okay, yeah.
hope I'm not mistaken, but I think came
Well,
next.
it's been so many. It's hard to keep track.
Which was another. I love drums, really do. I think I'm supposed to be a drummer instead of a piano player, but that's a different story. So I love drums, and I always wanted to sometimes I would get tracks from bands or maybe the bands. The drummer needed a little more, just being a little bit more solid as far as the performance. And the compressors are always an issue of, like, you had to compromise on the sound if you needed to have like a solid kick or a solid snare. And I really wanted to have a tool that just could control the level of the hits without impairing any coloration or bringing up noise. And we really want to treat some of the elements separately without touching the others. And also the whole idea of threshold and makeup gain, and I really wanted something that would work like I think. Okay, just set the area of the things you want to work on, where you want them to be as far leveled, how close you want it to be, like how strong, and just do it. It just felt more intuitive to me. This is like how I would speak to someone. Just play it louder, play it softer, or be less dynamic, more dynamic. Just like more conversational kind of interface.
Yeah. So we start to see like a trend at Sound Radix where, you come up with a problem, and that's a strong word, but a challenge. And then you say, is there anything out there that can fix this? And the answer is no, or not really, or sometimes just no. And then you go and create that. And that is a different, we love our vintage Neve emulation, compressor emulation and all that stuff. But, there is a whole lot of that out there. And that's a good thing. That's good. But the philosophy of your company, of Sound Radix, was really just creating these very unique tools, almost like, I wish I could do that. Or can I just do that? And I think we see that the trend and the vision, the philosophy, which has created these very unique tools. Okay. Drum leveler after that was, do we remember?
I guess Powair.
Yeah. Okay.
Powair came to that. Yeah.
Okay.
Which was the very first thing that we
started.
We started with.
Yeah.
And the way it went is, Frank Filippetti, which was a great evangelist of Sound Radix and supporter.
Yes.
One of the AS shows, he said, well, I wish there was something, I would set the vocalist compression, but when the chorus came, just the compressor just squashed my vocal, and I just want to keep that color, that glue, but I don't want to overcompress when the vocalist comes in.
Yeah.
And we said, you know what? We've been working on this compressor. Maybe we can add this feature in there and like revive the whole project. So we revived Powair, added adaptive compression to it, added the loudness leveler and some other features, and we got the thumbs up from Frank, and that's how it happened. I added some other cool features like the separate punch control. And Powair works really differently. It doesn't have a classic VCA or envelope follower. We developed it our own from scratch.
Yeah.
So it enabled us to do really crazy things with it. Control.
So I know there's more plugins to talk about, but I also want to get to some other, topics. And so could we kind of rewind a little bit and talk about your journey, how you got into music, when you realized that it was the only thing that was going to make you happy, and that, you did the thing that so many music people do, which is jump into the scary pool of how am I going to do this, but this is what I'm going to do. Like, could you, and the technology and the musical training, could you give us just a little bit of a sense of your journey?
Sure. So, I guess you wondered about my accent. So my accent is a mix of Russian and Israeli language. It's a kind of a mix.
Yes.
Born in Moldova, which used to be the USSR, but it's not anymore. As a kid to artist parents, as soon as they sense that I have some kind of music sensitivity, they said, "Well, you should play the piano." And the reason I said I should have been drummer is because the reason they thought I should be a musician is because one of those winter days there was a snowblower that had these chains, and I kind of started as a young kid just kind of drumming on that noise.
Yeah.
And my parents thought, well, he has to be a pianist. No, I'm a drummer, pianist. So this is how I started playing classical piano for quite a bit. Around age of 13, and it wasn't easy. I had these, tough Russian teachers. Not fun.
Yeah.
So when around age 13 or 14, when my parents got divorced, I was like, all right, I don't have to do it anymore. I break free. I didn't touch the piano for like a whole year.
Yeah.
But then I walked into a music store. Like the synthesizers just came out. They became more affordable, and I just started playing on those little synths, and just my mind,
blown
completely. Like, whoa, what is this thing?
Yeah.
I can do all these sounds, and so I worked the summer at a job.
Yeah.
Saved some money and bought this little synth, this Yamaha synth, and started fooling around at home. And it was just it was a crazy ride right from there. I started playing with like school bands and got this Roland sequencer, and started recording from tape to tape, and just anyways, at age of 16, I found myself working full time at a studio, at the local studio. Started just playing keyboards and really quickly got into the whole production and recording process. And I was living the dream. I didn't want to do anything else.
No turning back.
It was just amazing, yeah.
And then from there, what were the next steps from working in the studio to starting Sound Radix?
So it's been quite a bit, several years from there.
Yeah.
So I was working mostly as a arranger, producer, engineer, working on albums, commercials, composing sometimes. Been touring with some major artists here and doing albums.
This was analog consoles and analog tape, or was this start of the beginning of Pro Tools and whatever? Or
I was still
yeah.
When I started, it was all analog.
Yeah.
First time I heard a CD at the studio, it was amazing because you could really, that sense of finally hearing in the studio what the original recording really sounded like, and not something that went through so many generations.
Yeah.
That detail was quite amazing. And then that recorders that we used as masters, still recording on analog, but a master is on that. Before that, we used quarter-inch tapes. And then around 94, 5 or 6 when Digidesign had their
Yes.
2-channel sound designer studio.
Yeah.
Already started having some like a hybrid mix of analog and digital.
Yeah.
And then the digital.
I remember Pro Tools and Pro Edit, and you used to have to switch between the programs. I don't know if anyone remembers how scary that was, and you'd see this little hand like doing like rolling fingers, and you hoped that it would actually make the switch. But it was the start. It was the start, and just like any new technology, it had its little ugly duckling period, but you knew what it was going to be, and it took time. What are some of let's go back to 95. So Pro Tools comes out, Pro Edit, there was Sound Tools. Remember that one, right? Sound Tools and all those, interfaces and cards. So from there, where did it go?
So I had a hybrid of analog and digital. There was Session 8.
Yes.
I think from Session 8, that was digital from there on, I think. Still analog console.
Yeah.
A lot of MIDI gear, MIDI and audio. I actually had Logic came out, and they used to work at a music shop.
E-Magic.
Right. And I got a beta of Logic, was back then was just me, and it had a separate dongle, and then the audio version came out, so it had a separate dongle for the audio. So you had 2 dongles, MIDI and audio.
Yeah.
But it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was really all the environments and the things you could do with it, and so I had just a lot of synthesizers that were running simultaneously, sequencing with MIDI, mixing analog, but really recording digitally, and mixing to and the master goes to a DAT. That was the master then.
Yeah, DATs. I remember. Yeah, DATs for these lots of music on these little tiny things, but they sounded good. And I remember. Yeah, it was mastering engineers in New York City used to take your DAT and slam it to a Studer or an Ampex ATR, and then master off of that. They would put it back. I don't know if that was just like, for tape compression and tape saturation for sure, or maybe it's just like that was their lucky bowling shoes or something. I don't know. But I remember handing, Howie Weinberg a DAT, and he put it on his Studer and mastered off his Studer, and I was like, okay, he took it out of DAT land. But it worked. ADATs, DATs, all that stuff. In terms of the coding, is it something you kind of stayed pure and innocent of and didn't want to clutter your mind with, or did you learn it a little bit, or what is your relationship with, I know you said earlier you played with code and sound, which I love. That's a great phrase. We playing with code and sound. How much coding did you get into personally?
Not at all.
Okay, so you stayed innocent of it.
I'm not smart enough.
Or smart enough to know what you do best. Okay, so really you were expressing these things to your partner, and then getting these tools back, and then sort of refining them from a standpoint of being an experienced producer, arranger, musician, engineer. In terms of
I would put them to use, like as soon as we had something that's working.
Yeah.
I just use them in production, so I could really get a sense of how it behaves on different material and different sources, and so maybe that's also kind of a unique process. We didn't wait until it's ready to test it, but we already, as we go, we already tried it on real life material, which was great
to tweak and refine it. And what are a couple masterpieces of music that for you that you were just blown away by? In our school we use a lot of reference tracks, and a lot of schools do, and a lot of people do. And your reference tracks are your favorite tracks that still, even as jaded as we are sometimes, they still give you goosebumps. They still make you feel like a kid again. What are a couple masterpieces, either tracks or albums or whatever, for you on an emotional level? I know, it's a tricky one.
Yeah, I mean, I really love all kinds of music, and I may like it from different perspectives.
Yeah.
Like growing up, I loved to listen to Peter Gabriel.
Yeah.
Like all the colors and sounds, and it was just really deep, and I really love the experiments he did with sound, with electronic sounds, but and at the same time very earthy sounds and like tribal drums and
you have to love Shock the Monkey. Everyone, I mean, you just have to give it up for the unique soundscape and production and execution. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so powerful and unique and original,
Yep.
And at the same time, I love Prince.
Yeah.
For the tightness, for the minimalism, for the groove.
Yeah.
It just just blows my mind. How would just little things, just or just the right groove. It just it's amazing.
Yeah.
So really, recently, well, not recently, but last year's LCD sound systems. Really love what these guys are doing.
Amazing.
Just love the energy. It's just fun. Really, there's really great stuff, great music today. Also, like a lot of innovation and a lot of innovative creations out there today. Really love what's coming out. Like even in hip hop, I mean, hip hop is so great in the sense that it feels like a true place where you can really create new sounds and it can really fuse new elements together. And it's like an open field of exploration and sound and.
A lot of freedom there. I also grew up in the 90s and was a major label recording artist on, Warner Brothers, and did all that. And then we all saw the major labels kind of start to, with file sharing and all kinds of issues. The game got inverted. And, back in the day, independent music used to mean you weren't good enough to be on a major label. And now the major labels are studying independent music, and the quality of independent music is incredible. It's absolutely, indie used to mean like lo-fi and charming, and now independent music is some of the most HD, expansive, huge sounding music that you can hear. So, and a lot of that has to do with you guys and the technology that the bedroom producers now have. These are highly, highly professional tools that create a high definition sound, and then the freedom of being able to do it in an affordable way is creating like just an absolute, it's not a renaissance because that means it came back. It's just a new level of excellence for music. And if you're a music lover, it's a good thing, that it's not just like controlled by the fraternity anymore. The fraternity is over. Yeah, that's good. And I was okay. What would you, what are a couple plug-in companies from the other boutique plug-in companies? I know it's competitive, but it's also, I think, people, companies inspire other things. And what are a couple plugins where you were like, wow, that's actually good. Like that was smart, or that was good, or I like using this one when I'm producing. Are there a couple little gems for you?
Definitely. I mean, there's quite a bit of cool stuff out there. Um, I also love the analog motion stuff. So don't get me wrong, I really love the stuff, and I'm really happy to see how it evolves and gets better and better and better. Because it just makes it easier to get that sound and that distortion in the box.
Yeah.
Which is it's not easy at all, because with digital you get aliasing and just distortion in general. It's so hard to nail it and to make it sound right. So in that sense, always love fooling around with what sound toys are doing.
Yeah.
Really cool stuff. Really enjoy using like the Eventide plugins.
Yeah.
Hulk Sound. These guys are really cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're brothers. They innovating the field, creating new stuff, and really out of the box. Really great stuff out there. Isotope, their spectral editing tool. Some of the stuff that it can do is mind blowing. Like, if you have a drop-in recording, it can just work it for you, and how I can fix distortion, and just
RX is incredible.
If you need it.
Yeah.
Incredible. It's
incredible.
Like
yeah, it is magic.
Some great stuff out there.
We've seen a little bit of a trend in AI plugins and lots of AI, and you sometimes don't know if it's because people want to have an IPO or if they really want to do it. And I think, definitely at our school, there's a big sort of spectrum of producers and engineers doing different things. And one thing that you might use for a song might be different than something that you would use for post-production for a 30-second, radio commercial. So, I think we've softened our stance a little bit against it. At first, it felt like production tools for people who don't like music production. So you just let it analyze something and give you an EQ and a compression setting and a saturation setting, and it does it all for you. But that's what we like to do by hand. That being said, if you're in a rush and you're doing a 30-second commercial and you want it to sound a little bit better, and you have, 4 over-caffeinated people breathing down your neck, and you have to get it in the next 7 minutes, I think then there is a good argument for why people are working on these things. Do you have a stance on the AI trend, or any feelings about that?
The AI plugins I tried so far, other than the limiter, the smart limiter that recently tried, I think Soundable made it.
Yep.
Which I thought it was very, very cool, and actually bought it because, like you said, it's just a quick thing. It just get it right. Really cool. I wasn't that much impressed with the results yet. I don't know. I don't know why. It just didn't sound. It just didn't sound right to me.
Yeah.
I thought. But yeah, I think definitely if there is something that can help me do my job faster, and like give me some notifications maybe on, hey, you have maybe some clash there, or just helping me get stuff. I don't know, maybe organize my session before starting a mix or something that like an assistant or somebody, like a buddy that just helps me in the mix, or maybe in the future there'll be something that'll be more that you can maybe communicate to an AI in a more intuitive way. Like, let's say you have a certain track and you can just say, well, I just want it punchier, or I just wanted to, make it pop. I don't know. Just something that you can communicate with more and more intuitively, and get faster to where you want, especially if you're not like engineering oriented, like for musicians who would just want like to get the track sounded good.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that could be interesting.
In terms of, obviously, the last 2 years have been in the shadow of COVID, and something that none of us in our lifetime anticipated really or had experienced, and had a huge impact on music people, especially performers who, after monetizing your music through sales works for a very small percentage, and for the rest of the people was really about generating music money in the music space was about performing. And the last 2 years there were a lot of canceled performances everywhere, and I think that was tough on the psyche of the music production crowd. How did it affect Sound Radix? How did it have an impact? Did it not have an impact? What was the experience?
Well, from the cold business side of Sound Radix, the biggest impact we had, it was actually from drop in sales from actual post-production crowd.
Sure.
That just production stopped.
Yep.
But musicians, I think that they just moved and actually created more at home.
Yeah.
And we weren't impacted by it. But we saw, we noticed how hard it was, and we were feeling our friends, our colleagues, and so we actually we put aside everything that we were working on at the time, and built Pajam, which is an online looper with video.
Yeah.
That you could jam with friends and online without latency.
Yeah.
Because the idea was that once you have a looper, you can play with each other and be in perfect timing. You don't have to worry about latency over the internet. This is how we spent most of the first COVID year in Sound Radix. And when production started coming back, we went back to working on Autoline Plus 2 and the other projects. But
I think that's amazing because, this, I think it was a sense of embracing the reality that this is happening. And so what do we do about it? Well, people are home and they have good internet connections. How can we innovate again? And I think that is, making lemonade out of lemons, and something that also of lasting value. I think at our school, what we also saw is people who couldn't physically get together, but wanted to collaborate, started to expand their horizons of collaboration. And maybe there's a cello player in Latvia and a background singer in Singapore, and the files are flying around, and the technology improving so that it's not a bad experience, and that you can actually hear well, and that it's not clunky, and it does work. So, and I think those sort of ways of combating what were the challenges of COVID will be lasting for the bedroom producer community, and forever for the music production community. So, trying to make something good out of something that was, unexpected and very challenging.
By the way, it's still available. It's free. We're just trying to do something to help. It was really tough, really felt everybody, for a musician not to be able to be on stage is, it's hard.
Yeah, no, I think Hopefully we're starting to make our way back. So, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but sometimes it seems like you do. But what if you were to project a little bit over what has been an unpredictable time, but over the next couple years, what kind of trends do you see in music production? Any thoughts around that? Just where things are going, where DAWs are going, where plugins are going. Is it just a refinement of what we have now as the model getting even more refined, higher resolution? Or do you think that there's another revolution out there over the next few? I don't know. That's a tricky question, but
I don't know if I can predict. I can only say what I wish for.
Yeah.
I really wish for a more intuitive interface of music creation. And if you think about all the innovations that have been happening in augmented reality and virtual reality, and I don't like this company at all, but maybe the whole concept of metaverse could be interesting for collaboration, for creating music together. And even mixing and creating, if you can create with your body and mix with your body, like you would play an instrument instead of with a mouse. This would make me personally very happy. Just be more it being part of you.
More tactile, expressive controller developments, in a sense, not to reduce it to that, but yeah,
and just something more, I don't know, more reactive.
Yeah.
I don't know how to, just if like to shorten the connection between what you have in your head and the actual result. If we can work to achieve that, it'll be pretty cool. And it's been happening. I mean, if you look back today, it's easier to make music. You don't have to practice as much as you had to, like, I don't know, 30 years ago. You can make music easier. And some may say, well, it's not fair, but I think it's a great thing, because the important thing is the creation, not how hard you have to work. And to give the tools to someone who wants to be able to express himself, make it easy for him to do that. I think that can be only positive. So anything in that area that can really help would be great. And I think this is also where the industry is going. Like, make it really easier and simpler and more intuitive to be able to express yourself and shorten that distance between what are you hearing in your head and the actual output.
Well, I think that is a beautiful vision for the future. And I hope everyone out there is listening to that and can start to take that ball and run with it a little bit in the ways that people do. Well, Nir, I know you are extremely busy, and I just want to thank you for taking the time again, just to enlighten us and inspire us. And at Next Level Sound, we are absolutely we are huge fans of Sound Radix and all the really unique and powerful and thoughtful musical tools that you've created. And we look forward to seeing all the new things that you're cooking up. I think we should keep those top secret until you're ready to, sort of introduce them to the world. But I just want to thank you again for your time and everything that you've contributed to our lives. And it's nice to see the person behind this, this incredible collection of tools. And also want to thank Daniel Buck for helping us coordinate everything. Very, very helpful. So, can we do this again at the right time? We'll have you back and fill us in on what's new with you and Sound Radix? Is that something we could do?
Anytime. I always enjoy being here and speaking with you. Really enjoyed it. Great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you, Nir. Thank you, Nir, so much. And thank you all for listening. And, we will keep these coming. And we wish you all the best and everyone a safe winter into spring. Cheers. And thank you, Nir.
Cheers. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast. To learn more about our online music production classes, please visit nextlevelsound.com, home to the modern music producer.